All right, y'all. Welcome back to At the Table with Greg
and Elliott. How you feeling, Greg?
I'm good. It's a decent week.
It was?
I'll take it. Nothing too eventful. Well, I mean, more eventful auditions, but that's been happening more and more regularly now. So
I like regular.
I feel like that's not like a notable thing anymore. It's just part of the journey, right?
Part of the nose to get to the yes, right? What would you rank it? 1 to 10.
Give it a 7.
No.
That's a good 7, though. It's just like, it was a good week.
Okay. All right. I think I had
can't have every week be an 8, 9, 10.
That's true. It is a balance. Mine was about a 8, I'm gonna say. I'm gonna keep my 8 kind of trend right now, but I will say that I'm just like super tired, to be honest. Like that's my only bad thing this time. I'm like, whew, this 8, boy, I had to fight for it. Big time.
Well,
what?
I don't know.
No, I think you're about to give some
I'm about to do the culture catch up.
Like, this is going to be awesome. What is this mimic? All right, well, go ahead and run into it, though.
All right, you all. So this week's culture catch up is about perseverance and what it costs to get answers. I want to start with Shannon Box, Olympic gold medalist, U.S. soccer legend, and a woman who kept showing up while her body was sounding the alarm. In a recent interview, Shannon shared that her lupus journey began back in 2002, right at the start of her professional career. She described extreme fatigue, and it took 6 years to finally receive a diagnosis of systemic lupus. Our guest may have to help me out with this word. Erythematosus? Okay, I said it right.
I go to that health background. Go ahead.
6 years. And here's what people miss. She didn't overcome lupus by pretending it wasn't real. She adapted. She learned her body, she trained with intention, and she still competed on the biggest stages. But Shannon's story is also a window into a bigger issue because lupus can be incredibly hard to diagnose. The CDC notes lupus can present with many different signs and symptoms. Those symptoms are often mistaken for other conditions, and there is no single test for lupus. Research shows the average time from first symptoms to diagnosis is nearly 4 years, and longer delays are linked to more disease damage and worse quality of life. Black and American Indian / Alaska Native women are 2 to 3 times more likely than white women to develop lupus. On average, Black people with lupus die more than 10 years younger. So yes, we celebrate perseverance, but perseverance shouldn't have to include fighting to be believed.
Amen. Good. Oof. Shout out to Shannon Box and the many other lupus warriors that have that delay in diagnosis, right?
Amen.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to jump into what's at the table or on the table.
I see you staring there.
I am. I'm very proud of it.
It was actually really good.
Okay, good.
I have notes at the hit or miss section.
Oh, Lord, y'all already got notes.
Good notes.
Oh, okay. So what we got today is a lemon garlic chicken orzo, right? I was deciding between lemon pepper and lemon garlic. Usually, lemon pepper goes on every wing, but I was going to just keep it lemon garlic today. But chicken orzo, so it's really simple. Olive oil, chicken breasts, some sliced onions, salt and pepper, fresh lemon zest, some parsley, and then like chopped asparagus, right? And then of course the orzo. So this is a nice balanced meal. I call it like a one-pot meal. I'm really big on that where I don't have a bunch of dishes because this one right here gets mad because it takes me about 12 hours.
Yeah, because you don't clean them. You don't you don't even put them in the sink. Like who cooks and then just leaves everything over the kitchen counter?
That's not. I do put the dishes in the sink sometimes. Most of the time, yeah, I do put it in the sink.
You, Ryan, who else does this?
Don't be trying to put everybody out there on who don't wash their dishes.
He said it when he was on the show itself.
Either way, we're going to hear from our guest and, of course, from Greg now on what they think in our Chef Kiss or Miss segment. Can't wait to hear what your feedback is. As long as you don't say it's not nasty.
You should already know.
All right. So I'm going to jump into our guest bio, which I'm excited that she is here today and took some time to get here. So our guest today is Wendy Rodgers, my big sister, and also she is the Director of Care and Support Services for the Lupus Foundation of America. Wendy and I met when I first moved to LA, along with, shout out to Nicole, it really helped me, and I say it all the time, it really helped me feel even more accustomed to being here, especially from moving from DC, because it made me feel as though, even though I'm indebtedly attached to the Mathis family, it just felt good to have another family out there that, especially something so close to me, that I could connect with. So more about Wendy, but Wendy's connection to the work isn't just professional. She also suffers from lupus. Wendy is a native Texan, a public health leader, someone living with lupus, like I said. She holds a degree in biology and also a master's in public health from GW, equipping her with both scientific training and a system-level understanding of health equity and patient care. Before stepping into national leadership, Wendy was a teacher, a role that shaped her ability to educate, guide, and meet people where they are. Beyond her academic credentials, Wendy brings live experiences. She was diagnosed with lupus after navigating complex symptoms that eventually progressed into her getting kidney disease or kidney failure, which led into her getting a kidney transplant, which we'll talk about that journey here. She understands firsthand what it meant to wait for answers, manage the invisible fatigue, and to advocate for yourself in clinical settings, and also to rebuild your life after a transplant. As Director of Care Services, she now leads national patient support programs, including Education, Peer Support Network, SELF, which is an acronym, and RAY, which is another research engagement acronym. She leads with both expertise and empathy, grounded in science, shaped by teaching, and informed by sitting in the patient chair herself. I am pleased and excited to have at the table Miss Wendy Rodgers.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I do want to make a correction for Self and Ray. Those sit in another area, and I have colleagues that oversee that, but we do promote it, which is so important. The work is so important. So I just want to shout out to them.
Okay,
Awesome.
good. Can we talk about that today?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. First, I didn't realize you were a former teacher.
Yes,
my
I
mom's
taught
a
science.
former teacher as well. So
Yes. My
have a little
mom was a
affinity.
teacher and a principal, and I kind of grew up in education, grading papers. She hired me to write curriculum for the school district, so it was kind of in my blood. I initially wanted to be an eye doctor, and that's what I went to college to do. So that's why I have the biology degree. But with my diagnosis and with my move to California from Texas, I just decided to teach. And I was substitute teaching, and they kept asking me if I wanted a job. I was like, no, I want to be an eye doctor. And my mom convinced me. She was like, you could do different careers over time. You don't have to be married to one. And so I taught, and I loved it. I really did. And so I thought I'd teach a few years before I applied to optometry school. But then lupus walked into my life, and that's kind of where I stopped.
So where are you from in Texas again?
I grew up in a very small town right in between Houston and Beaumont. It's called Raywood. It's in Liberty County.
Liberty County, okay.
Yeah, so it's almost equal distance. And I went to the University of Houston.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
I grew up in the country.
Same.
I'm a country
Yes,
girl. Yeah.
We country over here.
Yeah, I'm a country girl.
I did
at
not.
heart.
I'm a city boy.
Yeah, I love the city.
Not
I
to be
don't.
confused with the city girls.
Yeah. Oh,
With
Lord.
some traits.
Okay.
So you were starting to talk about as far as in when lupus started to. Can you give us kind of your story? I've heard it before, of course, but can you kind of give our viewers an inception of it, like kind of with lupus and how that started with you?
Yeah, so honestly, I've had lupus since about 15 years old, and I just didn't know it. I was a swimmer. We owned a pool. I was a lifeguard very young, and I was always outside, either teaching swimming or swimming myself, and I would sunburn like nobody's business every summer. And I looked like a giraffe, and I would just be like, why do I burn so bad? Nobody else was burning, and that was an indicator. And then I would have these bouts of fatigue.
Yeah.
I also had rashes, but I thought that was acne on my cheeks and stuff, which was the butterfly rash. But I didn't have anything that really forced me to go to the doctor. Well, fast forward, after graduating and getting ready to go to college and, doing my college thing, I had an incident probably right before I graduated. I came to California for the spring break, and I spent the whole week going to a clinic because I had vertigo really bad.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I was going back and forth to this clinic.
And sorry,
in Beverly Hills.
vertigo is when your ears start to.
Yeah, it's like it's a
you're off
dizziness.
balance, right?
Yeah, I
Dizziness
traveled
too.
and I could
Yeah.
barely sit up and everything, and it would not go away. And at the same time, it was the same semester I had taken all of these advanced classes, dumped everything together, so I was under a lot of stress too. I wanted to try to hurry to finish and applied optometry school instead of like chilling and waiting and doing it at a
Taking your
better
time.
pace. Yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't want to wait. So I did that to myself. So when I got to the clinic and they were observing me, finally they just said, "You have a brain tumor." I was like, "What? A brain tumor?"
Yeah.
I had been a perfectly healthy person. I had a child at 16, natural childbirth, no complications.
All right.
The worst health problem I ever had was strep throat. So I was not familiar with anything serious. So I get back to Houston and I told them what happened to me. And they were like, "I don't know why you were told that. You look perfectly fine."
I know that must have been a
Yes.
relief at least.
It was
to
a
get that.
relief,
But
but
still,
I
like
know.
that type of trauma to a
Yeah.
doctor
Told
telling
that,
you that.
man,
yes, it was crazy. It was almost like something, as we're talking, I almost kind of blocked out because it was so traumatic.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, okay, I was going to doctors that just didn't know what they were doing.
Right.
Well, fast forward, when I graduated from college, I decided to move here. I met a guy here and was planning to get married and all that stuff. And I moved here, and shortly after I got married, I started having symptoms again. And it was just like I was going. I never rested. I went ahead and took a teaching assignment
Okay.
because I thought, oh, this will be great while I settle in California.
Right.
And after that second year of teaching, I just noticed I had fatigue all the time. I was having to really fight to get going. I would wake up feeling very achy, almost like frozen, and I had to warm up. And as the day went on, the symptoms went away, but every morning got tougher and tougher and tougher. Until one morning I woke up, I could not even lift my head off the pillow. I was paralyzed. It was like I was paralyzed. I couldn't even sit up.
Oh my God.
And that's what really scared me and made me go to the doctor because I realized, okay, something is really wrong. You can't keep ignoring this. And so I went to the doctor. Go ahead.
Question with that, right? Because I think, as we know, the stories are really similar.
Yeah.
What and as you go through this, and at the end of this, I want you to kind of give folks that may have similar symptoms or may be suffering from lupus or trying to figure out right now with the doctor what they should be looking for when they approach the doctor.
That's
right?
an excellent question. So if fatigue is a big one, which there's no real measurement to that, but if you're always tired, sensitivity to the sun too. As Black people, we still have to wear sunscreen, and that contributes to the fatigue and it activates your immune system. So with lupus, you have an overactive immune system, which means it works great, but it can't distinguish what belongs and wasn't. So doesn't. So it attacks everything.
Right.
And so you'll start to see things happening that might not be that common. And so rashes, hair loss, what else? The fatigue.
Fatigue,
You might
joints,
see joint
aching.
pain. Yeah, sometimes you might see swelling and aching, almost like you're arthritic.
Yep.
You could feel like you have the flu. So there's not real, when you listen to this, it doesn't seem like it's really bad. Yeah, it doesn't seem really bad, but a lot of the symptoms aren't really visible. And the type of fatigue I want to really hone in on, it's like you can rest and rest and rest. You're never going to be 100%. You're always going to live your life with some level of tiredness. And what people with lupus tend to do is they start to just figure out how to keep going with that. You're always in pain too. Everybody wakes up with some level of pain or achiness. And, unfortunately, it's sad to say, you start to kind of acclimate and just live with that until it stops you in a way, and that's not good.
And I know, and more importantly, I think everybody can attest, just like you're saying, like, oh, like I said, I was like, oh man, I'm tired, right? It's the big difference that you're trying to point out is that, yeah, I may be able to get some rest in a couple days of like really, whereas 8 hours, but people that suffer with lupus feel like I can't even move. Like I got to figure out how I'm going to push through. Yeah.
And what really makes you look a little weird or crazy is that one minute you could be up like this, having a good time, and tomorrow you might not even be able to get out of bed. So people don't see you as dependable, or they think you're faking or you're flaky. And so to me, the challenge with living with lupus is, you're not believed, even on the medical side of things. Sometimes when you're explaining things, the symptoms come and go. Sometimes when you go to the doctor, you're like, I had this rash, or my leg didn't work, or something. And when you get there, everything looks fine. And so, you have to document. I tell people now, take pictures and photos and
videos.
Yeah, videos.
Just know what you feel within your body, right?
Yeah.
Like, that something's not right. And like you did. I mean, because it's really fascinating to me that you've had lupus since you were about 15.
Yeah.
Even when you went to the doctor and they told you about the tumor, I mean, that was 3 years before you were finally diagnosed, you said?
Well, yeah, probably. Well, actually about 5 years maybe.
5 years?
Yeah. So I was going, but I didn't know. For example, as a 16-year-old with breaking out on I thought it was acne, sensitive skin. I was buying, makeup for that and using facial wash for that, not knowing that was the butterfly rash.
Yep. Now, knowing everything you know now, are there things that even someone like a 15-year-old Wendy would have been able to say, oh, actually, I maybe know this is lupus because I have this rash, that rash, or things that they could say to the doctor?
Yeah, definitely with the rashes and the sunburn, because you're very sensitive to UV light. I should have been slathering on sunscreen, period. But and then having those bouts of fatigue, that was unusual. But I figured, I played sports. I was very active, and I just felt like, okay, if I get some rest, I'll be fine. Exactly. Yeah, you just push through. And that's another thing about lupus. It's very common for people with lupus to be type A personality. So they're very driven. They're go-getters. They're going to push through. They want to accomplish things. And so they'll overlook things. Like, okay, my leg hurts, but I got to go do this.
Yep.
So that's kind of how
you've conditioned yourself to push through the
you
fatigue,
do.
Everything else that you're dealing with.
When you talk to the community, they're very accomplished people.
Yes. Like, as you know here, like, I think about my mom immensely when it comes to things like that, because that is kind of like the character that she had, right? It was just like, oh, this doesn't feel right, but, I got to do this for church, or I got to do this for the school. So I think a lot of lupus warriors have that mentality already. But I think also, even with that, right, is making sure that they understand to arm themselves when it is that, okay, you know what, I need to go to the doctor, right? Because did you find it hard to, when you were doing it when you were younger, to like talk to the doctor in the sense of,
I
hey,
did.
This is what, can you give us some?
I did. So backing up to when I went to the doctor, I got in for my visit. And when they did my vitals, it was 225 over 125. I could have had a stroke at any time. And I was 27 at the time. So that in itself should have been an indicator. And like I said, I was an athlete. I was in healthy condition. And so having high blood pressure was something I've never had.
Yeah.
And what it was is that my lupus was active. And so I was initially diagnosed as a person with high blood pressure, and I just didn't take care of myself, which wasn't the truth. I didn't even speak up for myself. It was kind of assumed, okay, African-American woman. Wasn't skinny. And
assuming
so
things about your diet.
Yes, exactly. That's what happened. And so I just started off on blood pressure medication. And what happened was, after about the third or fourth medicine that was not controlling it, I was starting to get worse. My hair was starting to fall out. I was swelling. I was becoming lethargic. It was harder to just get up and go every day. And even it was almost like I was mentally just out of it too. And so I got so frustrated. I did my own research because I knew this is not me.
There go Wendy right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
This
She's
is not me.
I'm gonna figure this
And
out.
I think that's what I want to hear more about, because it sounds like even today, a lot of people who have lupus will need to go down that particular
do.
journey, because it's just the symptoms can be so wide ranging. No?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I have the book to this day, like as a just something to just always remind me. I had this book at home that was about common diseases that impacted women, and it was very simple. And I was backtracking my symptoms, trying to think about, okay, what went wrong first? And the very first thing I noticed different in my health was the joint pain. I was never in pain. And so I never had an injury. So I thought that was odd. So I made note of that. And so when I went through the book, I was kind of going back, looking up symptoms, and I ran into this article based on symptoms about lupus. And when I read it, it was just something resonated. And I said, I think this is what I have. I'm going back to the doctor. And I got to my primary care physician and I said, hey, this is what I think is wrong with me. And he said, oh my goodness, Wendy, you might be right. And I thought, oh, okay. My thing is, I really wanted an answer. And he said, but I cannot treat you. You have to go to a specialist. You need to see a rheumatologist for this. So he sent me to the rheumatologist. I get to the rheumatologist. He asked me, why was I there? I'm like, right. I've got to remember I'm on this podcast.
You can save the extra thoughts for after the cameras cut off.
And I was just
Keep
like,
it classy.
oh my goodness, I couldn't believe it, because in my mind, doctors are experts. So I couldn't believe I was being treated that way. And I was told a lot of people sit at home and watch commercials and think they have things. And I said, look, I know who the doctor is and I know who the patient is. I'm here for help because I know I'm not okay.
Right.
That second line is even more disturbing to me. A lot of people sit at home and think they have things.
That's what I was told. That is what I was told. And the second part of that is I was tested. It was confirmed that I had lupus. But in the testing, as they moved forward, they noticed I was leaking protein. But I was told it was an unsubstantial amount. And I ended up waiting 3 months. And by the time I got to see the specialist for kidneys, which is your nephrologist, I was already in kidney failure. So between those times, my mom was pushing me like, call the doctor, call the doctor, call the... I was so weighed down, I could just get dressed and lay on the couch. It was like that. I was swelling. I wore a size 8.5 shoe. I was in a 10. My feet were so swollen. My skin was so tight. I was going down really fast.
Now, let me ask you a question, because, you know, I used to work in health policy in the U.S. Senate, and I know a little bit about how these things work. And I'm curious because I know, for example, I'll give an example, women's maternal health, right?
Right.
We found out that Black women, when they're delivering children for a variety of reasons, they're not treated the same as other races when they're delivering their babies. And there was a much higher rate of Black women who were passing away during childbirth or having very significant complications. And so I'm wondering, you know, in response to that, we passed legislation. We created bills, poured money into the issue, and really, you know, training doctors to spot symptoms, sensitivity, cultural sensitivity, you know, all types of things through the Department of Health and Human Services, also the NIH. And so I just wonder if there's anything similar for lupus that both help train medical professionals, but also everyday people on how to spot these symptoms, how to have sensitivity to Black women that come in who are, you know, afflicted by this at a much higher rate than other populations. And
well, with that, I can say we're not where we really need to be with that, but we are talking about it. Our work at the foundation is in that arena. We're talking about the disparities. So we do educate the community. Now we have education for the medical community. As you guys mentioned, like Self and Ray. I have colleagues that work with me, and that's their target areas, is developing education for the medical community, because you're right, everybody does not know lupus. In fact, I just met 2 young ladies today at church that said, you know, oh, I have lupus. And one of the things I told them, as you're navigating medical care, always ask the providers if they're familiar with lupus. You would just assume everybody would know, but they don't.
that's a great
And yes, I would say as a Black woman, the bias is real. and it can make a difference. And I feel like that is part of the reason why I ended up sitting in a dialysis chair
Yeah.
because of waiting, and I think I was just too sick to even care or say, oh my God, I was mistreated. I was trying to just live at first, and so that wasn't really a thought till later, but I go back and I think sometimes like, wow, what would my life have been like if I wasn't, treated that way or had to wait,
Yeah.
Because I think about folks that you say a lot of lupus warriors are type A and they, they come from a professional background, but there are just as much people in that disparity that aren't,
Right.
and don't have those resources like that. How have you in the community now, how have you witnessed like how LFA has been able to reach out or help those type of people?
Well, one of the things, and I'm so fortunate to do the work I do because it's literally care and support. We work with the community directly. And one of the things I've been able to do is create support, spaces for support, spaces for the conversation. People need that. There's a lot of isolation when you live with this because a lot of times you're taking out your own peer area. If you're sitting in a dialysis chair, you're not around your people. You're not able to go to work. You're not able to live a normal pattern of life. And so you're kind of moved out of life in a way. And in a sense, you become invisible. It was very depressing for me once I had kidney failure that I didn't know what my life was going to look like. And it's just like the logo we had. It was a question mark. I don't know if I was ever going to be able to work. It was hard to be a parent. I had to get my family to come in and help. It was just a lot of questions and a lot of uncertainty and just a lot of like, what would life be? And that in itself caused a lot of anxiety, depression. And, when you're really sick, people don't see you because you can't get out of bed. You're not out. And people start to, in a way, forget about you. They don't invite you because they know, oh, well, she might not be able to do it or whatever. And so that's a big change in life. And so that's one of the things we really focus in on. Since the pandemic, I've tried to be very intentional about talking about mental health care because, we talk about the body and how lupus can impact it, but just the mental toll on living with something and not being believed or taken serious, or you're being kind of tossed and turned through a medical community. You might not know how to speak up for yourself, that is stressful. And that's the number one trigger is stress. It is.
Yeah.
Now, I wonder because, you were diagnosed at 27, and I mean, just what you're telling me you went through outside of the anxiety and the mental anguish that, it inflicts on you. I'm interested to hear about the financial toll because, we know healthcare in this country is extremely expensive. It's the most expensive healthcare system in the world.
Yes.
And I'm curious to hear about your experience, but also what people who are newly diagnosed with lupus can do for themselves when it comes to managing that financial piece and just the care and support services they'll need to seek out.
That is the number one topic that we hear every day. Yeah. The number one topic. And it's the one topic, it's kind of like the dirty little secret topic because I lost everything. I went into bankruptcy because of lupus and not being able to work. And I was very fortunate. Remember, I talked about how I took that teaching job? That saved me because then I had disability. When you're not in your 20s, you don't think about that type of stuff. And I was very fortunate that I took my mom's advice and I lived on disability for like 12 years. 12 years I was able to have an income. Now, mind you, my family still had to help me, but a lot of times you cannot work.
Yeah, I was going to ask because with lupus now, is that because I know they're very strict? They can be very strict when it comes to disability.
Yes, a lot of times you have to fight. Yes, it's hard to qualify. That's a whole nother topic. In fact, we'll be talking about that this year about disability and workplace accommodations. Just being under lights. Some people can't, even if inside you can't be under the lights. And so a lot of times people lose their income and they're forced to get help from their family, or they have to live on disability or Social Security disability. And it's one of the things that is so embarrassing for people. It brings on a lot of shame and a lot of embarrassment. In fact, When I train the facilitators that oversee our support groups, that's one of the topics I just lay out because it's not a topic you bring up in a doctor's office, you know. As I was going to the doctor, I'm getting medicine and all this type of stuff. I'm talking about the clinical aspects of controlling and managing my life with lupus, but nobody could tell me how to keep my home. In fact, I'm gonna tell you, I rode on the Rose Parade float. That's January 1st. Happy New Year. I'm telling people donate, donate and all that kind of stuff. And I shared why I needed that kidney. And then January 2nd, I had to go pack up my townhome and go move in with a friend because my family could no longer help me. Lupus is a very expensive disease.
Yes.
Annually now, it's about $50,000 a year for someone to afford living with lupus. And that does not include if you have something like kidney disease.
Right.
Or you're in and out of the hospital. That's the bare minimum because you need specialists.
Medical costs, just medical costs.
Yes. Yes. And I had insurance, and there were some times I had to walk away from the pharmacy window because I couldn't pay for it.
Yeah.
And that's me. And I tell people, my father sent people to the moon for a living. But when it really came to helping me, my family felt so helpless. When I needed the kidney, he couldn't donate that to me because of the stipulations around, my case with lupus and all of that. So it can be really crippling, and it really does a lot on a person's psyche and how valuable they see themselves. Because it's like you are removed from society and you don't get to contribute. And so many people with lupus are so bright and intelligent. They're running companies. They're inventing things. They're the creatives in the world. And I'm always blown away. I interview people now for our facilitator slots. And I'm going to tell you, I could just what people tell me is it blows my mind. People have climbed mountains. They have done all these things. They run companies. I mean, brilliant people, but their body won't let them do that. And that's horrible.
It is. It's one of those things where I think a lot of folks know lupus is the mysterious disease, right? But also they don't understand, just like lupus and a lot of other medical things, but how much society-wise, from financial barriers, from emotional barriers to medical barriers, even with, your personal barriers, right? Because I think it affects your relationships with your family and just in the home. So just having all those different kind of frustrations and everything that you've witnessed, and the people that you interview, how is lupus now in your mind? Like, where are we from, when you were 15, 27 to now? Like, how have you seen the progress? What have you seen different?
First of all, I didn't think I would live to see a new drug develop for lupus. When I used to go to Capitol Hill, I used to say, it's been over 50 years since a new drug has been developed for lupus. We need help. We need funding. Now, when we go to Capitol Hill, I don't say that. We have 4 drugs, I believe, maybe 5, and things in the pipeline for lupus. And there's much more that needs to be done, but I didn't believe I would ever live to see that because that's how big of a gap and how complex lupus was. And just to be alive, number one, to see it. And then personally, where I sit now, I feel so much stronger and so much, I feel like I'm kind of have a relaxed vibe about life. Everything is not, oh my God, I gotta get it done. When I was in college trying to do all those classes and crash my GPA and stress myself out, I don't see the need to do that.
Those social anxieties don't exist. Like,
a lot of times we put stress on ourselves that doesn't need to happen. And so I feel like I've learned not to do that to myself. And that helps out a lot, number one, living with lupus. But also, I've learned living with this that I have a strength that I can't even describe. To come from where I did, which was death, literally, to be here. I'm very humbled to just be here, sitting at this table, having the conversation, trying to help somebody else because I didn't think I would live through that. And so I live with the gratitude for each day that I just wake up. It's just, it's really a gift. It really is a gift to be here each day, and I really try to make the best of my day. And to do this work here at the Lupus Foundation, I feel like sometimes God has a sense of humor. It's kind of laughable because I've always prayed, like, please let me live out my purpose. Make it very clear to me, what I'm supposed to be doing. And then when I got this job, I'm like, wow, this is really clear. Like, I don't know how clear you can be. This is very clear. So, where I am right now, I feel like that's what I'm supposed to be doing right now. I don't question that. Right. This is it. Right now, it's very clear where I'm supposed to be.
And I think that's such a beautiful thing. You talked about wanting to be off camera. We talked about you wanting to be a physician originally and be in healthcare. You went and became a teacher, and now you actually are into the field of, I would say, providing healthcare to people.
Yeah, I'm just on the flip
lives.
side.
Yeah.
I'm on the flip side for the patient. I feel like I've been a professional patient. I feel like I've had to learn how to fight for myself. And I was very fortunate to have a family, especially a mom, that was an excellent advocate. She was there every day. I spent 6 months in the hospital fighting for my life. And if I wouldn't have had a parent like that could speak up, and because of her, my healthcare changed for the better. We were able to have conversations about what to do next for me that I think were life-saving.
Yeah.
And so everybody needs something like that in their life, because at first I didn't want to offend anybody. Here these people studied all these years to become a physician, and I didn't feel comfortable asking questions until one day I walked out and I was feeling so bad. I walked out the visit and I thought, I feel like crap. I have a child at home that I want to see grow up. I want to live life. I want to be able to travel. And the way I feel right now, I had 2 friends that came out to see me shortly after I was diagnosed to try to cheer me up.
Right.
And I told them, I said, if I see my 30th birthday, that's going to be a miracle. And when I told them that, they were like, Wendy, you're not being positive. I'm like, no, I'm being real. This is how bad I feel. And I've seen way more than my 30th birthday. I'm not going to even be shy. I just saw my 53rd birthday.
Oof.
And I've been in remission since that transplant, 16 years. And so, just to be here and be thriving and be able to experience life, it might not be the way I wanted it to be or at the level I want it to be, but I'm here,
Right.
and that says a lot. And so,
really does.
Yeah.
I mean, it says so much as far as like a lot in the prayer that you had.
Yeah.
It says a lot in your strength, right? And then also how you're balancing being a part of LFA and having the background of, not being an optometrist or an eye doctor, but you still have that vision for everybody else.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here, it's hard for me in the senses of thinking of like, being here and, getting to the age, just because of the loss of my mom. But I, as you tell these stories and I think about like, all the episodes and somebody being there, like it just hones down on the point of like what you're doing with the care and support services.
Yeah.
Now, for folks that may not know about it, may not know how to get in contact with LFA, like what are ways that they can access to at least be able to be in a network to feel as though they're not alone?
The very first thing they can do is go to lupus.org, the website.
Okay.
We have a very comprehensive website. And that was one of the things I was thinking as you all were talking is now we have tools. I wasn't able to go Google or on my phone. I had to ask for stuff to be mailed to me. It's very limited what was out there for us. And that's the beauty of where we are now is that you have access.
Yes.
Many of our support spaces are virtual. Since the pandemic, we pivoted, and you can do that 24/7 almost. You can find somebody. We do have a platform that is 24/7 where you can find people and talk and ask questions. I have a team of health education specialists that are in my department, and they do a beautiful job of working with people one-on-one. And I'm going to tell you, they talk to you. They talk to you. And so we take it very seriously, to be accessible to people because I get it about not knowing where to go, not being able to say some of the things you really need to say.
Right.
not knowing how to speak up for yourself. We actually teach that too. Self-advocacy is something we really help people to learn to do.
That's so
And
important.
it is
That's
so
That's
important.
really important.
Yeah, because
It's
I
very
can
important.
imagine the intimidation because you're sitting, like you
Yes.
said, you're sitting
Yeah.
in front of a doctor, you're sitting in front of a specialist, and they're telling you, no, you
Yes.
can't have this, or
Yeah.
blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah. Like,
people hear that.
yeah, so I
Hey.
think it's just important to have that. Go ahead.
No, it is. And I was just going to ask because we've made so much progress as
Yeah.
we've talked about in the journey to end lupus. And I know that's one of the chief tasks that we have in front
Yeah.
of us is still the journey to completely end lupus.
Mhm.
What can folks do to get involved with that? I mean, and to help push us even further than where we've already come in this fight?
Well, there's really 4 areas for this organization. You can kind of pick a lane based on what you like. We do, of course, fundraising. So we have an advocacy team, and they kind of hone in on the fundraising for research, the health policy. You can raise your voice. In a couple months, we're going to be on the Hill. We're there every single year
Yes.
to
I miss those
advocate.
meetings.
Yes. And I know when I found out, I was like, oh, yeah, you need to come. Where you can bring your story. And that's the thing. People feel like their story doesn't matter, but their story is the reason why we're sitting here with the things we have.
Exactly.
So coming with your story, telling your why, telling, why people need to support this. And I feel very fortunate because I've gone to my congressional offices plenty of years and they've always supported. So I feel very, happy to be in a place where they like, what you got, kind of thing.
right.
So that makes a difference. And then research. We need people in research. We really do, especially in the Black community. I'm just going to say we need to be involved.
Yeah.
I was one of the people who testified at the FDA for the very first ever drug, Benlysta. I was in that room.
Okay.
And one of the problems was that there were not enough Black people in the study. So that was one of the barriers or one of the things that would cause a hesitation about putting it out in the market because they didn't know how
Black
the
people
public
would
and,
react.
yes, our community would be
community react,
impacted.
yeah.
And it is true. We sometimes need things differently. I experienced that in my own journey. I had a doctor who was Ethiopian, and the way he treated me, he looked at me from a Black lens, a Black person's lens, and some of the things that worked for me were not standard of care.
Yeah.
I thank you for being here and sharing this, Wendy,
Mm-hmm.
because I think more people need to hear your story, specifically how you fought and took your own health care under your control. And I think, it's important to go to the doctor and you should go as often and as much as you need to. But to your point, don't let that be the end of the road. You have to get second opinions. You got to ask the right questions. You have to be persistent even within that.
Yes. And one of the things I've learned, we had an amazing rheumatologist speak to us, and he said, your medical team works for you. You pay them for that. So when you're paying somebody to talk to you that way, you can change them. This is what you're paying for. And when I thought about it, I'm like, think about when you go to a store, you buy something and you don't like it, what do? You take it back. You return it. You don't keep it. If you get bad service at a restaurant, are you happy with that? No, you need like some dollars off or whatever. But we don't look at healthcare like that. We don't look at it like that. We accept people doing that, and that's unacceptable. It could be the difference between life and death. And that's one of the things I had to learn. It's okay to change doctors. It's okay to say, no, this isn't working for me, or this medication I found doesn't work well with me. What else do you have? And so, you have to have those kind of conversations. And you're right, you got to take it beyond just getting to the doctor. Because getting there is just like the first step. You got to look at what works for you. Lupus is a very customizable disease. No two people are exactly alike. What I've needed in my care is not what the next person's going to need exactly. You cannot compare stories.
Because it can range from meniscus skin irritation to all the way up to organ failure.
Yes. And so depending on how it evolves too, because, 1 year might be, okay, your skin, then it's your heart, then your liver, your lung. It has no predictability. And so you have to be ready to roll with the punches and figure that out. And with that, you might have to change specialists. You might need this person on your team. Then you got to take that one off. You got to go to something else. So it's a lot of changing over time to see what's the best fit for you. Even with the medicine, I take some medicines, they work beautifully for me. And I have friends with lupus, they cannot take it at all. They do horribly on it. And so, you have to really look at self and work with people and speak up.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get on my soapbox here because I think
Okay,
this
go
is
ahead.
really an important topic for
Okay.
our community to hear.
All right.
Just exactly what you're saying is do not be afraid to engage with your healthcare
Right.
system. And this isn't me beating up on doctors, beating up on
No.
our healthcare system. The fact is that anything you look at, every person makes mistakes. Every system has mistakes, has loopholes, has cracks that
Yes.
things fall through. And it is a doctor's work is just them doing their work to get to their opinion.
Yeah.
It's their opinion of what they think is going on with you based on their assessment. And so,
Mm-hmm.
again, we know our bodies best. Go see your doctor, but take control of your health care. And I think to your point, us Black people, we haven't always been the best at getting to the doctor, but now that
No.
we're getting
No,
better
no,
at
we
that,
don't.
now we need to get better at remembering our doctor works for us and we pay them.
They do.
Yeah.
They work for us. And sometimes part of that, I believe, is sometimes it's hard to hear
Mm-hmm.
what's wrong with you, but you got to know.
Yeah,
You can't be afraid to know. I remember
I'm scared of that.
some people are afraid to know because it's almost like, don't claim it, don't claim it.
Exactly,
We have a group
yeah.
for Black women, and just some of the things that are said in our community are unique to our community, and that's one of the things people are afraid to know what's wrong with them because they feel like, once I know, then I'm gonna just go downhill, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But
No, I know the elders in my family are
Yeah.
like, don't go to the hospital because you won't come home.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
the
See, it's a
mentality.
trust
a
issue
fear,
too.
and a
It's a
trust,
fear
yeah. Mhm.
that they're not gonna, fight for you. That was very common in the transplant community. I used to advocate for people to sign up to be donors,
Yeah.
and I was specifically tasked to the Black community. And I would see people run away. They were like, "Oh no, you're not taking my organs." And what people didn't know is, in order to get a transplant, they have to do the stellar care. They have to give you stellar care to be in the best condition to transplant the organ. They have to take care of you and that
And
organ
the organ donor.
to be optimal.
Yeah.
It's the opposite. It's the opposite. They just can't go. And life is so fragile. I mean, you don't know who's going to be your match.
Mm-mm.
I was called 6 times before I got a match for a kidney. And it's that fragile and specific. And you have to really take care of yourself to do that. So people got to know you have to have a team you trust. And that's why you got to be okay with changing doctors. I had to do that, and it was like breaking up with a boyfriend. But once I got to a specific stage in my journey, it was like my doctor didn't believe me. When I got active and advocating and speaking up and educating people with lupus, it was almost like, oh, you don't have lupus anymore. You can go out. And I'm like, I do a lot of this stuff from the computer. I'm not getting up and going to do an 8-hour day. And so sometimes people forget because you look okay.
Yeah.
You look
That's so
okay.
true. It's an
Yeah.
invisible disease. That's what the thing is.
It
People
is.
think just because you're
The most
working
difficult,
around, and doing everything, that you're just, you're great. Well, you should be fine.
Yeah.
And that's not the way.
Yeah.
Oh man. I can't explain how much it really means for you to be here to tell your story and us not to get, I'm trying not to get into all the details of like, tell me about the transplant, tell me about this,
I'm open.
open book. And I know you are, Wendy. I want to make sure I'm not being selfish of myself, right? Of thinking of those things, but also being able to help others, who may listen, who may see, so that they can understand there's a community here, a community online that's available for them. And then also people that can be donors to understand that it's just as important for you to be in stellar health. Also more important for them to be in stellar health versus the actual person receiving it. I know, somebody in our family recently got like a transplant recently.
Yeah, I was going to say that. And it was just like you said, it is a very stressful process.
It is.
She got a kidney, and then that kidney fell through, I think, twice. She had 2 kidneys fall
Yes.
through. Literally the day before she was supposed to go into surgery one time. And thank God she finally got her kidney. But literally the day before she was supposed to go for surgery, they told her the kidney fell through.
Yeah, I've heard that too. I've gone through that. It's a very sensitive topic, but it's a topic that the lupus community needs to have. It's a discussion we need to have because unfortunately, about 60% of those with lupus will find themselves dealing with kidney issues. Next month is, Kidney Awareness Month, and we will be talking about, the importance of protecting your kidney because
Is
it
that
is
March?
yes,
Sorry.
March. And one of the organs that lupus loves to mess with is the kidney.
Yes.
Especially if you're a Black person, you are highly at risk. High blood pressure, diabetes, that in itself will make you a high risk. And so you have to think about your kidneys when you live with this disease because it will attack anything, especially, organs like your kidney.
I remember that with my mom because she had kidney failure too, and like it was just so important to have water and cranberry juice, like real cranberry juice, because those are things that since your kidneys aren't working, it helps kind of push the needle. Greg always gets at me because he's like, "You're such a health freak, and you're such a all this," and as I sit here and listen, I'm like, "Oh man, I got this from like." Things my mom had to do as a result of being in that, trying to figure out what's wrong. You know what I mean?
When you watch somebody live with this, it does something to you. And you want to try to prevent yourself, which is a great perspective to have because lupus isn't passed down directly, but there is a likelihood that it can be, in your family because there is a genetic aspect of this. Right. So there's the genetics. Over 50 biomarkers have been discovered to be associated with lupus. Hormones play a big role, specifically estrogen. That's why you see a 9-to-1 ratio of women to men.
Right.
Gotcha.
Men still have estrogen, so, they're not out.
Yep.
And so, and then your environment plays a toll in that, being exposed to things. We've talked about silicates and UV light and
Stress.
all kinds of stress. Yeah. Go ahead.
Is there anything different or specific that you would say to men who are diagnosed with lupus or dealing with lupus? Is it similar to the treatment for women, kind of the protocol?
They have the same clinical manifestations as women, but there's some symptoms that are more pronounced in a man, like kidney disease. They tend to lose weight or, have the unexplained fever. So there's a list of things that men are a little more susceptible to, or you'll see them with, but men are just as susceptible as women. And one of the things about men... And I asked that, though, because
one of our buddies in his mid-30s, just maybe 40, actually, got diagnosed with lupus recently. And he's been talking to us just about that.
Yeah, because they normally live in secret. So we do
he's so embarrassed to talk. He doesn't want to share it.
Well, we have a group for that. So we have now 18 specialty support groups, and one of them is for men. And that came out of a group I led because we had 4 guys in the group. And one day, one of them said, "Hey, sis, we love you guys, but we need our own space." We love your own space because it is a difference. And I'll never forget, I sat in on their very first meeting and I just wanted to burst into tears because I realized how isolating it is for a man because they are not the majority.
Correct.
And think about it. Society sees men a certain way. You got to be tough. You should, be able to do everything. Yeah, I've even had to catch myself talking like that, And so they do need those spaces. They do need those spaces. I noticed one year I covered for the Man Cave, and there were 2 guys in the military, and they both were keeping their lupus a secret and were struggling doing their work. So now we have a space for that. Yeah.
It's called the Man Cave, you said?
The Man Cave, and then we have they were like, we don't want to be called a support group. So we didn't call them a support group.
I love it.
So it's the Lupus Man Cave. So they don't want to be called a support group, so we didn't call them a support group. And they've been around for probably about 5 years now. So there is a place. But it's hard for men. And think about it. I would feel uncomfortable if I had a disease with a lot of women.
And that's what I was about to say. It's the mental association of them having that disease. It's almost like when men get breast cancer. Men get breast cancer,
they do.
But it's associated with women, so no one wants a man that want to admit.
It just makes you feel so uncomfortable when it does happen that way, and the thing is like if you stay in that isolation, it makes it worse to your point. Like it may affect your kidneys or whatever.
I'm gonna tell you, the man I knew, the first man I met, I was just like, "Oh my God, you're a man with lupus. I'm so glad." He was like, "What?" I said it's rare to meet men with lupus. And then another man I knew, he really struggled with lupus. His lupus was very aggressive. So men can't take this lightly, and so to be quiet about it and not have that support system is really something, we try to help men not have, to be at the table too, know that they're in this conversation, they matter. like I said, sitting in that support group that night, I remember my friend who spearheaded the group. He made the comment. He said, "You know what? I still have to be the pickle jar opener for my daughter, and sometimes I'm too weak to do that." That never left my mind.
Ugh.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
And there's these little eyes looking up at you like, I need the pickles open,
Oh,
you know?
man.
And I was a daddy's girl. Like, I couldn't imagine, like, my dad can't open the pickle jar. What's wrong with you?
Right.
You know, and so it's things like that.
Yeah.
That hurts.
It does. Right. I know. No, that was a big one. I just wanted to make sure. I'm glad you touched on, you know, especially men that suffer with lupus. The last thing before we get into our next segment here, how do you stay grounded now? Like, what does Wendy do? I heard you say travel, but like, what else do you do to get like some relaxation and, you know, with this less stress that you're trying to like kind of build in your life?
You know, self-care has been kind of a phrase that's come around over the last few years. I'm sure you've probably heard it a lot.
Right.
And I remember one day I was just thinking, well, what is that really? And I think it's something that each of us have to define for ourselves. And I've tried to kind of be more in tuned in, you know, first of all, what makes me happy? What do I want to do? And it doesn't have to be a big thing, but one of the things I've done is to really look at myself and say, you know, what is something you want to experience that brings you joy? Like a walk or the spa or that getaway or whatever. And I've tried to be more intentional about that because one of the things I discovered about myself is I was always living my life to help other people.
Right.
And I was always the one forgotten. And so I had to become a little selfish.
Yeah.
You know, and they say, you know, self-care is not selfish, but I've gotten a little bit selfish. I've learned how to say no.
That's a
Which
big
I
one.
never hardly did.
Yeah.
You know, I was one of those people, oh, yeah, I'll do it. And oh, yes, I'll do it. If I don't want to do it, no. So I'm very selective now with doing the things that I would really like to do.
Yes.
You know, and so it's okay if I don't want to do something and I don't beat myself up about it. I try not to ever feel guilty about saying no.
Right.
And so that's something I've really done. And then I'm just a person, I'm sorry, but I just believe in God.
Amen.
And I lean on him like nobody's business. I would not be sitting here. And so I really lead a life where I start my day off in prayer and meditation and like, Lord, just speak to me. I need you. And that's how I start every day. And it's just brought me closer. And I feel like lupus has been a gift like that, you know, where I've learned that as accomplished as I might want to be or strive for things, I need God.
Yep.
You know, I need him. And so I really try to welcome him into my space every day and live a life with him in it.
Yeah. It's important.
And it's brought me a peace.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because when you realize that particular piece that you can get from God, like it's almost like, oh, I didn't have to work
it
for
takes
this.
off a weight.
Yeah.
It takes off a weight because a lot of times we put things on ourselves that are really a little ridiculous. You know, I thought it was one of the most ridiculous things to live with something that you shouldn't have stress. Life is stressful.
Yes.
I thought this is so silly. How do you do that? And that's by setting boundaries, saying no, being a little bit selfish, putting yourself first sometimes.
Yeah, you got to. And I mean, it's one thing to take the risk to do it so that you can really understand what it feels like. I mean, you have to put those barriers up to essentially protect yourself.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You do.
All right. So now we're going to move into Greg's favorite segment.
Okay.
Yeah, Greg loves the tea.
You want to
So
Okay.
it's called Be Honest, Don't Hold Back. So this is exactly how it sounds. It's, you know, you be honest, don't hold back. You know, you don't have to be politically correct, right?
Okay.
But he's going to give you some questions or some prompts to see how you respond.
Okay.
And you can respond just as
However I
natural
want.
you want.
Okay.
All right.
Look at him. He's real
Yeah,
serious.
right? You see that?
His
It's not
eyes
that
are
bad.
shining.
It's not that bad. It's not that bad.
That's what he says before.
What's the most outrageous thing about the American healthcare system?
The cost.
Mm-hmm.
The cost. As a public health person, I remember being in this global health class, and everybody, when you compared all the countries with what they have and don't have, There's no reason why someone in the United States of America should go bankrupt from getting sick.
Yep. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. This is a good one. What message would you have to someone exhausted from self-advocacy?
From exhausted about doing it? First of all, I believe everybody needs at least one person on their team because of that. And I'm glad you brought that up because the onus of living with lupus often falls on the patient. And that's something that has personally perturbed me because you're already tired. Brain fog is real. Sometimes you forget things, and it's a lot to live with that. So you have to find one person. And one of the things I also want to say is a lot of times people are disappointed by their loved ones. Like their mom might not be the one there for them, or their dad, or their brother or sister. You can't get caught up on the who is on your team to help you through this. You got to look at the what about who is in your life doing this. You got to look for the person that it can be your voice when you can't, and that might not be your immediate family, and that's okay. So you can't get caught up on that because you want somebody that could speak up on your behalf and knows how to do it. Sometimes your immediate family is too hard for them to even have that conversation, or they feel so helpless, or they just doing this isn't their thing. And so you got to really look for that person you can put on your team to give you that break. You do. And I was very fortunate to have a mom. And in fact, when I was in the hospital, they thought she was either the attorney or the nurse for many years. They were like, they were like, is she an attorney or is she a nurse? Yeah, we joke about it. I'm like, you missed your calling because, I mean, she'd be sitting in the corner and I was waiting for her face to change like, so she was the actress too because I was like, she was looking like everything was wonderful and I was just looking horrible, just hanging on to life by a thread thinking, I'm okay.
Right. Mama sitting there looking good.
She looking like, this is okay. She cried outside. She went and fought with people outside,
But came back in.
In so smiled, bubbly and everything. I'm going to tell you a funny story. I was taken one time to go get an MRI. And my sister-in-law used to come in and do my hair, and I had this little curly ponytail. I thought I was looking cute. So I went to get this MRI, and I was so weak, I couldn't even take the little rubber band out. So the man came and took it out, and he just went, and I'm like, he cut my hair off.
It was the rubber band. It was so stupid, right?
I didn't have any hair. They were putting it on the little strings in my hair because my hair had fallen off, and nobody told me I didn't have hair. So when I got back from the MRI, I was like, give me a mirror. And everybody's like, what, a mirror? We don't know where a mirror is. I'm like, I think there's a mirror in this room. I want to see myself. I had no hair.
Oh, my God.
They were just letting me put this little thing on, making me happy. And I'm like, I don't have hair.
Right.
Just oblivious. So,
Oh, my God.
I look back and I was like, wow, what a moment. Because my mom told me, Wendy, I'd rather you be here with no hair than gone with a full head of hair. When she told me that, I was like, you know what? I guess hair really doesn't matter that much because I do want to be here. So, it was a lot of humor in that. So like I'm saying is you want a specific person that can be by your side with stuff like that.
Hold your hand.
I remember my mom's hairdresser was that to her. Like when she was when the hair was going and she would give her these wigs to put on just because she had to go to the school. Because with the principal you got to go. You're in front of people.
Yes,
all the
my mom
time.
was a principal. Yeah.
So I remember my mom was too weak to go to the hairdresser, and so she came to the house. The hairdresser came to the house, and I distinctly remember them in the kitchen, by the kitchen sink, the stove, and all that stuff. And I remember her saying, Pat, why don't you just wear your hair? And she was like, what do you mean? I don't have no hair. And she was like, yeah, just wear, just like a fade.
Yeah.
She said, just, wear the fade. And then, when your hair grows back, you can do whatever you want with it. The part I love the most is she said when your hair grows back, like it's in essence giving her life.
Yes.
Right? So to your point, and she wasn't family. She wasn't anybody that, I grew up with or anything like that. But it's just you never know who's going to be there, who's going to connect.
You know, and that's
make
so
you feel
true
better.
because that's how my hairdresser was. She went with me through the whole journey. And she's like my mama, like, no, you can't do that style because it has this. Because she's had to learn lupus too. And she made me do that one summer. Like, no, you're not going to get these extensions. You're going to wear your own hair.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you how. And it was one of the most freeing things. And when my hair grew back, I was like, this is so cool. I was forgetting to comb my hair. I'm like, oh, Lord. But, you know, that is a beautiful thing because you'll find even in your beauty care, you have to have people that know lupus. Nail care, too. After I got a transplant, my nail salon that I go to, they shut it down and they treated me after everybody was gone. I didn't have to go among people. So things like that make a difference just for you to feel beautiful because sometimes you don't when you have you know, the scarring, the hair loss, and that's a whole nother conversation. I look just like a little black Cabbage Patch Kid with no hair. I was beyond recognition. In fact, the first time I went to buy clothes after I got out of the hospital, they would not let me do the purchase because they thought I had taken somebody's driver's license. I did not look like myself. God. Was in a wheelchair and everything. I'm like, no, it's me. And they're like, and I didn't look like myself. So
no, those are the struggles.
Those are the struggles, and they're very real.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, took over your segment.
I know.
No, that's what it's for.
Okay. All right.
Let's talk about this food.
All right. So the next segment we got is Chef's Kiss or Miss.
Okay.
Right? So here is Chef Kiss is meaning that you love it, right? And you can give whatever opinion of what you liked about it. And then Chef Miss means as though it wasn't up to par, but this is what I would change.
I would give it seriously a
Chef
kiss.
Okay.
Yes, I love a nice like one potter because I like things all together. And I thought it was perfect with the vegetables and the chicken. I thought it was seasoned very well. I didn't put the Parmesan on mine, which I should have done, but I loved it.
Okay, good.
I did.
We got a Chef's Kiss over here.
No, it was really good.
It
the
was.
parsley was a nice touch too. I really like that.
Okay,
coming
good.
Through. No, that
What
was
else you got?
Chef's Kiss.
The Chef's Kiss?
It was good.
Okay. Well, it's going to be Chef's Kiss for me because I made it. So I'm happy. All right. So that's our segment. Is there anything, I guess, Wendy, that, you know, we didn't touch on or that you felt like, you know, we should let at least the people around just know?
Well, I just first want to thank the two of you for bringing me to the table because this is not a topic that gets a lot of attention. And it should because it can be so devastating. And when we are in the Black community, at least my experience has been a lot of times what I hear is, oh, my aunt had that or this person had, and they died, just like your experience.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I'm able to say today, we have tools that we didn't have. We have drugs that we didn't have.
Yes.
And we're really pushing to continue that. And so I just want you to know that for those losses, I really carry that with a lot of seriousness, you know, in my heart because I know people along the way in my own friendships that are gone. And it is a serious topic. So I thank you for just bringing this up because it really, really needs it. And then one of the things I do want to mention is that we do have help. Like I said, I oversee our support group network, our team of health education specialists. And we are real. You know, I always bow down to them because they will sit on the phone an hour. They'll look all over. They've touched 67 countries, y'all. Wow. Helping people around the world. And that's something that's not really known. We do webinars and we try to hit big topics. And I really do pull topics directly from the community.
Which is the best way to do it, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, you know, you can get local, like you guys are doing the walk. We do that. We do things in person. And so we have a lot to offer. I was explaining we have 4 areas, and that's research, advocacy, the care and support, which is where our education and support falls. And then what's the 4th one? I forget. I can't remember right now.
That's okay.
Did we say it? I think we said it earlier, didn't we? I was trying to write them down. I don't know if I
I know, and I usually have them memorized. But we really are working to try to get resources in the community.
Yes, which is important.
Yeah, so people feel like they can touch us.
Yes, because a lot of times it takes effort, honestly. And if they feel as though it's too hard to find or too hard to connect with, they, you know, they won't. So
and I love to be a connector. So if people want to be connected, I can connect people.
Well, tell this camera how they can connect with you and where they
Okay.
can reach out to you.
All right. So you can call me at 213-407-1058. You can also email me at rogers@lupus.org, and that's with the D, RODGERS. And you can explore our website, lupus.org, LUPUS.org.
Nice.
All right, she gave y'all the direct connect. No
Right.
excuses.
No excuses. And don't be trying to text her and flirt.
I like that purple lipstick.
That's my brother speaking.
All right, Wendy, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Let's give the people a little peace out. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment at the table. Peace out, y'all.